The go-karting company has been ordered to pay nearly £120,000 after a Muslim schoolgirl died when she was strangled by her own hijab. Ruwaida Adan, 15, choked to death after her headscarf became caught minutes into a race with her friends at Capital Carts in Barking, East London, on August 6, 2021. The end of her scarf was said to be hanging out of her helmet and suit before it wound itself round axle of the go-kart and strangled her. Emergency services were called to the scene and resuscitated the teenager, who was then taken to hospital. She died 4 days later after suffering a hypoxic brain injury and asphyxiation. Capital Carts Trading, a company owned by Capital Carts, has now been ordered to pay a £90,000 fine following the tragic incident, as well as costs of £29,021.18 and a victim surcharge of £190. A probe into Ruwaida's death in 2022 found that the teenager should have been told to remove her headscarf, but checks at the venue missed it. There were posters at the venue telling racers to remove any loose clothing and long hair tied back, although Ruwaida and her friends were not told to read them. The jury at Walthamstow Coroner's Court said at the time, no safety check ensured that Ruwaida removed her headscarf before getting into her go-kart.
This pedophile committed a crime so disturbing that a petition was created that asked the government to publicly hang him, and the petition gathered thousands of signatures. This is 33-year-old Benjamin Taylor from West Virginia, and in 2016 he would commit one of the most sickening crimes I've ever read about. Back in 2016, Benjamin was living with his girlfriend, a woman named Amanda Adkins. At the time, Amanda had recently given birth only 9 months ago to her baby daughter, Emily. Emily was a beautiful young girl, and I want to warn you all right now, the details that we're about to discuss are some of the most disturbing I've ever covered. So in October of 2016, Benjamin had only been living with his girlfriend Amanda for about a month. And on the morning of Emily's death at around 4:30 a.m., Amanda woke up and went downstairs to search for her baby. When she went downstairs, she saw Benjamin Taylor with his pants unzipped sitting in the dark. Amanda then noticed that her 9-month-old daughter's limp body was lying nearby on a pile of sheets and laundry. Amanda screamed at Benjamin and grabbed her daughter's lifeless body, but he remained silent and stared at the ground. The details of what had just happened down there are disturbing. Local authorities would call this the worst assault that they had seen in decades. You see, Benjamin and Emily were covered in the infant's blood. After the child's body was examined, the authorities were able to determine that she had been assaulted by an adult male multiple times. The infant child was also bleeding extensively and had suffered head trauma. Emily had a fractured skull and brain hemorrhaging. Authorities believe that Emily may have been shaken violently, or even thrown to the ground or slammed against a hard object. When police arrived at the scene, Benjamin Taylor was observed trying to wipe something off of his groin. That was eventually determined to be Emily's blood. He also told authorities that he remembered taking the baby to the basement, but that he blacked out after that. You see, he had been smoking and drinking the night before, and that was his excuse. Thankfully, Benjamin was convicted of all charges and sentenced to life in prison without mercy, as you can see right here. But for some people, that just wasn't enough. And like I said at the beginning of this video, a petition was created which asked the government to publicly hang Benjamin. And this petition, before it was shut down, gathered over 50,000 signatures. I mean, this truly is one of the worst things that I've ever covered here on my TikTok. And personally, I don't think that life in prison is enough for this guy. I mean, the pain that poor Emily went through before she was eventually killed is just heartbreaking on every single level. And I just hope and pray that the other prisoners that are in there with Benjamin find out, or already have found out, exactly what he did to land himself in there. If you want to hear more true crime stories, listen to the podcast Murder in America that I co-host with my wife, Courtney. It's available on all streaming platforms.
That's nice. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I said that's nice. That's so cute.
It's just a cigarette and it cannot be that bad.
Honey, don't you love me and you know it makes me People before and
It's just
after
a
prison.
cigarette, and it cannot be that bad.
Honey, don't you love me? And you know it makes me sad.
It's just a cigarette, like you always used to do.
I was different then. I don't need them to be cool.
He pulled her out of the car and realized that she was still breathing. He said he got back in the car and ran her over until she looked like spaghetti.
What's his demeanor as he's telling you?
He was excited. I felt like he was wanting me to feel the way he felt about it.
Ich weiß gar nicht, wie ich dieses Video überhaupt anfangen soll. Es ist wirklich eine ganze Weile her, dass ich von so einem schrecklichen True-Crime-Fall erfahren habe. Die tagelange Folter von Jennifer Doherty. Hey, mein Name ist Jess und solltet ihr auf Horrorgeschichten und wahre Verbrechen stehen, dann folgt mir unbedingt, um nichts mehr zu verpassen. Die 30-jährige geistig behinderte Jennifer lebte in Mount Pleasant in Pennsylvania. Sie war in ihrem Kopf so weit wie ein kleines Kind und daher fasste sie zu vielen Menschen sehr schnell Vertrauen auf und dachte, dass alle sehr gut zu ihr sein werden. Doch damit lag sie leider absolut daneben. Jennifer ging in ein neues Community Center und sie lernte dort die damals 17-jährige Angela kennen und ihren festen Freund, den 23-jährigen Ricky. Die drei freundeten sich sehr schnell an und verbrachten viel Zeit in der gemeinsamen Wohnung von Angela und Ricky. Dort traf Jennifer noch auf die weiteren Mitbewohner. Auf dem Bild hinter mir könnt ihr alle 6 Bewohner erkennen, Angela und Ricky. Dann gab es noch die 20-jährige Amber, die damals schwanger war, und ihren festen Freund Melvin. Und oben links könnt ihr Robert und seine Freundin Peggy erkennen. Jennifer dachte, dass diese 6 Menschen ihre treuesten Freunde wären. Doch was sie ihr angetan haben, ich glaube, ich kann nicht mal alles aussprechen. Angela wurde mit der Zeit sehr eifersüchtig auf Jennifer, weil sie das Gefühl hatte, dass ihr fester Freund Ricky mit dieser flirtete. Und daher zwang sie ihn zu einer Entscheidung. Entweder sie oder Jennifer, aber sollte er sie wählen, dann muss er Jennifer loswerden. Und hier fing die Tortur an. Die 6 setzten sich dann zusammen und überlegten sich einen wirklich grauenvollen Plan, wie sie Jennifer quälen und foltern könnten. Am 10. Februar 2010 machte Jennifer sich dann auf den Weg zu ihren eigentlichen Freunden. Sie wollte dort 2 Tage übernachten und schrieb ihrer Mama noch einen Zettel. Als sie in der Wohnung angekommen ist, wurde sie von den 6 sofort überfallen. Jennifer erlebte die nächsten Stunden wirklich den grauenhaftesten Horror. Sie wurde mehrfach mit einer vollen Glasflasche ins Gesicht geschlagen. Sie musste ihren Urin und ihre Fäkalien essen und trinken. Sie wurde von Melvin mehrfach vergewaltigt. Sie wurde mit Metallstangen und Krücken geschlagen und ihr wurde Nagellack ins Gesicht geschüttet. Am Ende sollte sie dann noch einen Abschiedsbrief schreiben, sodass die Leute denken, dass sie Suizid begangen hat. Melvin führte sie dann ins Bad und stach 24 Mal auf sie ein. 3 Stiche gab es ins Herz und die führten dann zu ihrem Tod. Jennifers Leiche wurde dann in den Müll geworfen, wo sie dann am nächsten Tag von der Müllabfuhr entdeckt wurde und die Polizei wurde kontaktiert. Bereits nach wenigen Stunden wurden alle 6 festgenommen und mussten sich vor Gericht verantworten. Melvin und Ricky bekamen die Todesstrafe. Die anderen 4 Mitbewohner sitzen heute noch im Gefängnis und das werden sie auch ihr restliches Leben tun.
People before and after prison.
Cigarette, and it cannot be that bad.
Honey, don't you love me? And you know it makes me sad.
It's just a cigarette, like you always used to do.
I was different then. I don't need them to be cool.
Things kidnappers look for: short people.
I waited It's heartbreaking that a 12-year-old girl, Kill, her 8-year-old cousin over a cell phone. On the night of the 17th, they were sleeping in bunk beds in a room at her grandmother's house. The 12-year-old girl covered her 8-year-old cousin Demelia's head with a pillow and a sheet until she became unresponsive. The little girl's name is Demaria, and this horrific act was captured on surveillance video. You can see her wiping Demelia's body and face with a tissue after her cousin was not breathing. She even moved Demelia's body to make it look like she was sleeping so she wouldn't be noticed. The next morning, when Grandma noticed something unusual, she watched the surveillance video. That's when she saw the 12-year-old torturing her 8-year-old cousin with pillows, blankets, quilts, and anything she could find, all because of an iPhone. Demaria is charged with first-degree murder and tampering with evidence and is currently being held in a juvenile detention center. But prosecutors are asking for her to be charged as an adult, and it's all so horrible.